talk about specifically Kudu as a database. So why don't you just kind of run through the capabilities of Kudu for us at a very, high level?
Sure. So with Kudu, we can build this thing out at but one, we can do it in kind of a mineral-based world to support those projects, but we can also do it in surface dominant projects for CCS and renewables. It's very capable for helping micromanage leasing and acquisition projects, and you can get a very good sense of what's happening because all the activity that we do is built in the system, all the contact nodes and the contact categories. The leases are generated, which maybe we'll touch on that more detail later, out of the system, which there's a lot of benefits of that to keep from inconsistencies and typos. Um, you can we have some new features that we're going to utilize out there really interesting, but talking about tying into things, yeah, we have a way to just pull this into somebody's quorum. So some people might want to grab this data and internalize it within their system. We can just basically hand it off and seamlessly integrate into whatever their tool they're using. Or if they're selling this later, they can do the same way, sell it to the buyer.
Okay, so we're gonna have you pull up your screen here, and
Okay.
I just want you to give us a tour of Kudu really quick. I've got some maybe questions that you can help us answer, but why don't you just give us like a general share your screen and run through really quick, and then I'll get into my questions.
Sure. So this data set here is, we're trying to incriminate any of our clients. So it's sort of a very generic bit of data that we put together. And so not every bit, not all the leasehold data necessarily is here, but gives you an idea just so you can see how to navigate everything. You've got, set tabs up here. Right now, I'm in basically the track level. So within this, you have sets of tracks, and each one of them you can click on it, jump in, and you will get a lot of great data. You got your grantor grantee, you got all the source deed information. So important things that other groups don't tend to grab is we're keeping the examination type in the system. So sometimes so there's a lease check done, and that's not really that usable for certain applications. This is full ownership. So this is really reliable data. There will be a cert date. Again, some of these numbers are quirky because we just built something to look at it, but this would be able to tell you what point in time did we run this, so you understand when you need to pick this up and update it if that's something you need to do. We can attach documents within this, so it's common where if we build out something, we have plats and source deeds. Um, you can generate documents out of it. So if you need to build just a simple mineral ownership report, or like I said before, you can run complicated reports that will overarching reports on the whole data set or specific tracks. Here's your mineral ownership, and I guess I can maybe jump a little bit forward and just talk about how on a leasing level, if you were doing this, you could pull a contact category and say I'm working this, and the buyer is Brandon Dodds. And so whenever we run reports, you're going to see this information. See Brandon Dodds assigned to these owners. They're working. Maybe this guy ends up not wanting to lease with us, and I can change his status to will not lease. But all this data is tracked. And then it's very easy to go in here and generate your leases, which are uh, do we want to get the leasing right now or save that for a little
Sure,
later?
yeah, yeah, let's walk through it.
Um, on a leasing job, if you, this is what we're doing here, or a waiver acquisition job, if this is a surface dominant project, either one would work similar. Our buyers can go in here and just generate a contract, an oil and gas lease, and this will pull in this module, will build it out. So what we tend to do is we get the client to approve a form, a waiver form, lease form, whatever it is. Those are all implemented to our system. So they fill out all these data points, but it will generate the exact lease form the client's preferred to use. Since everything's automated out of the data set, most of this is pre-filled out because you already know your ownership information, their address should be in the system, but it saves a lot of trouble because historically you have some lease buyers on Microsoft Word, and they're just hand typing off of templates and kind of riffing and plugging in information in weird spots within the lease form. So this is really beneficial. um, the leasing process in our system really turns into kind of a stepwise program where you build it in here, that creates a new status. The lease comes back in, our lease processing people in hand it. It's now in another status. And all this shows up in all the reporting. All this lease information saved internally for forever. And within that, you can even play around with managing your leasehold data set, such as if there's option periods, we can like notate in the data set that we extended the option. It's now got an additional 2 years. It's all smartly built out. So, and another benefit is this guy has a bunch of tracks in the data set. So if you look at all of this, these are all the tracks in this data set that he owns within. You could select all of them, or maybe you're just one to lease. Maybe this one, and this one. You can see it auto kind of populate out in this legal description here. And again, that solves the problem of having some buyer go and typing all this up and maybe messing up the legal description and causing you to go back and redo a lease.
Yeah, that's
Um,
huge.
yeah, and going forward, client approved clauses. If you guys are okay with the no surface use and a Q clause, we get your approved forms. They're in the system, and all our buyers end up doing when they're building this out is just clicking some boxes, and they automatically add them to an exhibit for the lease. So it's all right here. You can go down here and you generate out your documents. Here's me generating a lease. You can click this, generate the LPR, the memo, the order of payment. It makes it all really simple. And if it's all within the database, it's all easy to track. Numbers, if you have questions about how many acres have you leased, um, if we're kind of riffing on a leasing project, I can
Yeah, yeah.
share. This is an output from this data set
Yeah, I was going to ask you
showing.
to run a report. I would love to see it.
Yeah, yeah. This is one I just pre-ran it so we didn't have to wait on it. But this is giving you an idea in this data set. There's 6,000 acres. There's 149 owners. There's 58 tracks, and within it, we've got 162 acres in a working status. Those are people that we're trying to lease at this point. It's 34 owners, 11 tracks. Those are in the working category. If we start taking leases, at some point we commit that owner. So the acreage would move around to show that negotiating, all these terms fill out this data. And then if this is a report we're doing week over week for status updates, which is typically probably what we would do, you can see a weekly in-handed lease value and a committed value. Just see turnover to see, hey, how slow is Dudley moving through this? And you can also it helps with budgeting. If you see we got, you know, hopefully 300 acres committed. Next week there's gonna be a bunch of bonus need to be coming out, so it helps with a lot of internal planning.
Yeah. Now,
And
this
yeah, all
whole
these
this
tabs
whole
are accessible.
report was generated just by clicking a couple buttons in Kudu, and then the report's generated. Right?
Yeah. Where's macro? It's really simple as going to this reports tab, and you just are clicking. These are all different types of reports in the system that we can access and generate. So in this case, that was just the lease status report. I just click it and it kicks out the system. And you can run any of these reports and limit it. So if you wanted, you could go to a lease status report and only select certain tracks or tracks on an abstract and have a limited report if that's what you're doing. So you may have a big data set, but you're only trying to lease in the east half of it. We can run reports only on that part and disregard the other half because it's not pertinent to leasing. So
Okay. And so previously, without Kudu, you to be able to get that lease status report, how would you develop that? Would it just be a manual process of
you'd
gathering
have a
data and
long
putting it all
running
together?
Excel spreadsheet, probably. I mean, that's really
Right.
the only way to do it. There'd be a running spreadsheet, and with the spreadsheet, it's hard to do things like, how many tracks are owned by John Doe. You kind of would have that in spreadsheet, but it'd probably be on a bunch of rows and look kind of weird. With us, you can kick that out by just querying that owner in the data set, and you can actually go to the owners tab and say maybe SLR, yeah, SLR property. There was SLR property. I search them and look at that. Here's all their tracks. Here's contact notes related to that owner. So on different tracks within the system, this is feedback on how that's going. And
Yeah.
that's basically always accessible here in this little owner tab. And then if we had a lease buyer assigned, you would see all these lease buyer would be filled here, category, working or committed, all that's accessible right there as well. And then you're also seeing this is an open tract. If these were leased, it would show it's HVP or primary term leased. All that's accessible there too. So that's hard to get that much information in front of your eyes that easily when you're just in a spreadsheet.